Hey everybody, it's Bud with the X Mode bringing you Quick Tip Thursdays. Ever wonder what happens when GoPro takes their demo footage and throws it out there and it looks just amazing, and then you go out there with the same camera, shoot something, and it doesn't look nearly as good? Well, don't worry, I'm gonna show you today how to set up your GoPro properly to be able to do those awesome cinematic style shots. So what does it take in order to get your GoPro set up the same way that GoPros are set up? Yeah, GoPros. Yeah, that's right. Well, you need to make sure that Pro Tune is enabled. And the ISO speed is really important. By default, it goes everywhere from 100 way up to like 6,400. And to be quite honest, that's just way too much for that little sensor to handle. Chris Farrow with GoPro actually mentioned in Peter McKinnon's video in regards to GoPro video footage that the ISO needs to be set at a max of 100. Anything higher than that, and it's going to get really noisy. It's not going to look nearly as clear and rich as you would expect to see. So make sure that your ISO is set to a maximum of 100. Now, what happens if you just don't have enough light and you need to increase the ISO? He recommends going to a max of 200, but don't go beyond that. And if you have to go beyond that, then you need to get better lighting. That's what it really just comes down to. So got to keep in mind that sensor is itty bitty, and with it being so small, you need to make sure that you have enough light to be able to do what you need to do. So that makes that makes night shots a little more difficult at times, but day shots is usually without issue. It'll be just fine. Your shutter speed is also important as well. The big thing to remember with your shutter speed is that if you have it set to auto, it'll work fine, but anytime you change lighting conditions, if you go from a shadowed area to a bright area, you will see a quick shift in that shutter speed in order to maintain proper exposure. So make sure that if you're shooting in a scenario or a situation where you want to keep that shutter speed, that exposure level just right, make sure you lock that exposure setting first before you start shooting. If you are going in between lighted and shaded areas, or you just don't want to have to deal with that piece of it and constantly checking it, then just set it to auto. Usually for the small 2, 3, 4, 5, 10-second clips that you have, usually you can catch it in between any type of exposure changes that happen. So which view mode should you use? Super, wide, linear? I mean, there's a few to choose from. Chris Farrow recommends that you use wide mode. Peter McKinnon recommends that you use linear.
One more thing to keep in mind is, like I mentioned out in that cornfield, is shooting linear.
Bud recommends that you use wide as well, because you can easily fix it in like 3 seconds in Premiere Pro, and it looks 10 times better than just running in regular linear mode. So color profiles are going to be really up to the filmmaker. The important thing to remember is that with the GoPro color profile, it does make all of those colors pop really, really well. And so if you don't want to deal with any type of color correction or color balancing or anything like that within Premiere, just go ahead and set it to your the GoPro color profile, and you'll be fine. However, now if you want to go through the process of proper color correction and color grading and make it pop the way you want to pop, get your LUTs in, make the image, make it do what you want it to do, then I would highly recommend you use flat. And so the best thing to keep in mind is kind of think about your scenario, think about how you want to shoot, and then that'll help you determine which color profile you want to use. Next week, we're gonna go through gimbal movements, the proper gimbal movements you would use with a GoPro to make that nice, good cinematic shots. Hopefully you found this useful, and hopefully you'll be able to take these tips and put them to use. So now that you know how to set up your GoPro right, do that, go film some stuff. If you want me to take a look at it, comment section below. Don't forget, subscribe, definitely subscribe, like, hit the bell, all that good stuff takes 2 seconds, and you'll be notified the next time I push out a new video. Peace.